Thank you so much for coming out to my talk. We're going to have a little bit of fun here today, lots of demos. So hopefully I have properly paid all of my respects to the demo gods. If not, we'll just roll with it and see what happens. My name is, welcome to my talk, first of all, Speedrun Cybersecurity with AI, Hack Faster. I am Mike Spicer, aka Dark Matter, on the internets. I'm a dad, and I'm a mad scientist at the heart of all the things that I do. I consider myself a hacker, tinkerer. My day job, I'm a principal at Coalfire, so I work on defensive services as well as pen testing and red teaming, and get to also do a lot of red teaming activities on AI systems. Why is this little thing? No, I don't want subtitles. Thank you. Thank you, PowerPoint. You might know me for some of my previous projects that I've built, namely the Wi-Fi Cactus, a giant backpack that I wore around a bunch of different conferences collecting all the Wi-Fi and did analysis on that and did some presentations on that. Then I created some smaller versions called the Wi-Fi Kraken. And then because I kept running out of storage space, I decided to do my own hardware storage startup, which hardware is hard. Anyone who builds hardware, you should know that. And then my hobbies are I love to run, running a 15K tomorrow. Anyone doing the Run SLC series tomorrow? Anyone? Come on, you can do it, I believe in you. Anyways, I love to run, mountain bike, snowboarding, and the best thing of all is Pokemon. I'm obsessed with it. I was actually just in Singapore, and it just so happened that there was a huge Pokemon Go event in Singapore. I got to meet a bunch of YouTubers that I got to hang out with that I've been following for years, and literally go play and like do raids and capture Pokemon with them. So anyways, love Pokemon. So if you like Pokemon, hit me up. We can trade some cool stuff. All right, what are we going to get into today? So first off, introduction, kind of give you an intro into this and kind of my mindset, why you should hack faster, integrating AI into your workflows, and then my top tools and examples, and then we'll talk about some of the war stories that I've got. And then I'm going to go into some demos, and I'm going to show you, we're going to try to do some live stuff. I think I got some pretty exciting stuff that we can go through and try. We'll do some conclusion. Hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A, and we'll go from there. So I chose speedrun to kind of go through this because I'm like, okay, well, why do people speedrun? So according to Reddit, people speedrun games for a variety of reasons, including the competitive challenge, achieving fast competitive times, the sense of accomplishment in personal community or record breaking, and the opportunity to discover new strategies, glitches, and ways to explore game mechanics. So I was like, that's pretty applicable because in cybersecurity and hacking and red teaming, we're always trying to hack faster. We're trying to get things done. Why? Because there's never enough time. When you're on an engagement, when you're doing an assessment, it's all about getting to as much pay dirt as you can in as little time as possible because you got to get that report done. Usually engagements last, in my case, typically about a week. Sometimes I get lucky and I get to do 3-week engagements. And that usually includes the time to write reports too. So, and if you get a lot of findings, your report writing goes up exponentially. So there's just a lot of pieces to it. So the next thing is there can be large surface areas. So on a recent engagement I was working on, we started uncovering different pieces of the company organization. Turns out they had hosted Azure, so they're doing Active Directory in the cloud. They had across there, they were using AWS, so now they've got giant amounts of software and services inside of AWS. And then also, you may find that they're also using other cloud providers too, like GCP. And so not only do they have on-prem stuff and they're doing things locally, you have to now consider that they're cloud infrastructure is a part of an extension of their local. And in this case, some of their cloud infrastructure was connected through VPN and local only. So it wasn't web accessible, it was local accessible via VPN. So it was technically an extension of their local network. So it's just mind-boggling how big some of these networks can be that we're working on and doing testing on. And we want to give our clients as much coverage as possible to make sure that, hey, at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We're trying to identify risks for our customers, our our clients and try to help them have a better security posture. It's not about finding things for the lulz or finding things for glory or anything like that. At the end of the day, we're ultimately trying to make them more secure. And so if we can leverage tools to increase our attack surface coverage area, if we can get those things better, I think that we're going to be better off in the end. The next thing is better tracking. So a lot of times as a pen tester, I get tunnel vision and I start going down a rabbit hole and I'm typing commands, I'm doing stuff, and I'm like, yes, I just got root on this box. And then it's like, well, how did you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. And I type history, and somehow in one of my other terminals overwrote my history. And so now I'm like, oh, I don't know, I got it. Take a screenshot. And then the client's like, okay, cool, but can you walk us through the attack path that you got there? So then it's like, okay, well, crap, I need to track better. And so there's other ways you can do it, but I think that that's one of the things that we can use with AI, especially with the process that I use. I'm able to track things a lot better so that I can be more cohesive with not only commands that I type, but also what things are running at what times, and so that you can make sure that you're giving your client the full picture of what you're doing. So how do you integrate AI into your existing workflows? So a lot of times people just be like, run all the AI everywhere. And I'm kind of on that boat with things. However, you have to figure out what works for you. So take your existing workflow, how you do things, do your existing analysis of how you're doing an attack. So for me, I usually start with recon. After recon, take those results, pour them into figure out what the vulnerabilities are from that recon, and then go at it with like either manual testing or figure out ways to do exploits, go look and see if there's anything in Nessus or if there's any open source vulnerabilities, look at different things and try to go after a host from there, try to figure out what devices are connected. Maybe I'll run Bloodhound to do additional recon in an environment. And then, well, how can we automate those pieces? So that's the next thing that you need to do, because ultimately, at the end of the day, we should be able to write a simple bash script that automates us out of existence, right? Like that's always been the dream since for years and years. System administrators have saying that they could be automated out of a job with bash scripts. So I think we're getting closer and closer to that every single day. And then at the end of it, so figure out what those steps are, those repetitive steps. So for me, those are loading the scanners, those are loading asset lists, those are taking new discovered asset lists and rescanning those with the scanning tools. So there's kind of those feedback loops that we can throw stuff into. And finally, ask AI for advice on your workflow. Maybe like it may have some suggestions for how you could better do your workflow. Maybe like, oh, I'm getting stumped at running Nmap on this host, and I don't understand the output of the results. And it's like, oh, hey, well, maybe if we output in JSON, we can import that better into Nessus, for example. And who knows, you might be able to come up with something that you didn't think of, or you didn't know the flags for a certain command to be able to do that. It might be able to do that for you. So it's very useful for collaborating and bouncing ideas off. And finally, make things more complex after you have it working first. Because sometimes if you're like start off with, I want to make the ultimate pen test tool. It's going to scan and then attack, and then it's going to run all the tools that it possibly can, and it'll get lost. You'll get broken, you'll get frustrated. AI just isn't there yet to do full coding like that. And so, let's see. I'm sorry, my next slide thingy just was confusing me. So there's a couple other things to consider with your workflows. One of the biggest considerations is, can I actually use AI for this process? Like, for example, companies have policies and procedures, and they want to make sure that data is protected. And as a pen tester, you're not only have to adhere to your company's policies and procedures, but there's also a rules of engagement or some sort of contract between you and the company you're working for. You want to make sure that in that process, the client is clear on where that data is going. So I work on engagements in a past life for the Federal Reserve Bank. And that was a very locked down environment. We could not do anything external to that network. We had very specific VPNs that were set up on our laptops. We couldn't even touch any infrastructure or devices or anything unless we were connected to those VPNs. And in that situation, there was zero tolerance for using AI or AI type tools and bringing those into the environment, or even bringing any unspecified tools, or even launching attacks that weren't already listed or reported before those attacks were listed. And the penalties, if you did not adhere to those policies, could in some cases be criminal. So I have like a very crazy scaredness, I guess, fear for wanting to make sure that I'm doing things by the letter of the law and making sure that I'm doing things in the right way. So what do you have to do? You need to know where your data is going, what systems are sending the data, how the data is going in and out of there. And also the next thing is, can we trust the host who's holding our data? What happens in the worst case scenario if that host gets popped? What happens if Claude, for example, has a data breach? OpenAI just announced that they're going to start training data on memories, which memories is basically everything that you've ever generated and communicated with OpenAI. And so now that's going to be a part of that generation history. And so if you're using client data, customer information, internal data that maybe shouldn't be in there, there's going to be in a training set that potentially somebody could pull out of that setup. And so those are things to consider before using that. So with those things in mind, because I like to make sure that I'm running things as safely and securely as possible, here's a little bit of my workflow. So this is kind of all over the place on different parts that I use. Claude is a big tool that I use. It seems to be awesome for code. OpenAI seems to be good for image generation when you can get around their content filter policy. It's also good for just general purpose. Ollama is my go-to. Ollama is super awesome. It basically allows you to run a bunch of different LLMs locally, which I will show you in some of the demo and stuff that I've got here in a second. There's a little tool called T3 Chat, which was created by a YouTuber. Oh, I just forgot his name. It'll come to me. Anyways, the YouTuber created a tool because he was like, all of the interactions with all of these tools is super slow. OpenAI slow, Claude's slow, everything's slow. We want things fast. So he created a React front-end interface for a bunch of different LLMs. And you can basically, for $8 a month, well, for free, you can get, I think, 10 or 20 free queries on it. It's just t3.chat. It's a great place to just go test and try. And then for $8 a month, you can get access to a huge list of LLMs to just kind of test and try things. I also am of the mindset I always want to do stuff as cheaply and as open source as possible, so then I can control the data or I can control the budget. Claude is at the far end of that, where it's very expensive, and then the T3 Chat's probably the cheaper end of that. And then next we've got Web UI is the OI over on the bottom right. That one is a super cool tool to be able to give you a web-based interface to your Ollama instances, so you're not dealing with command line. You can actually upload files now, and you can do all sorts of crazy stuff that you do right with like ChatGPT. The tool above that is Void. Void is an open source code editor that integrates LLMs. So anyone familiar with Cursor in here? A couple of you use Cursor. So, and I'll talk about Cursor in a second. Cursor is like the de facto standard currently for if you're going to create code. There's a huge trend all over the internet called vibe coding, where you just tell it things and let it build code and you press accept and go. Well, Void is the open source version of that. They're trying to create basically all those tools but leverage open source so you can run it locally entirely on your own LLMs. And so then that way you control your entire data flow. And so like I was talking about before, I have some engagements where I work with clients where they absolutely want to know where the data flow is, where our virtual machines are, where our attack boxes are coming from. And I can run Void, I can run Cursor, and I can run local LLMs and be able to be using similar tools, similar AI tools in those highly sensitive environments. And then the tool above that, EXO, is a super rad tool that allows you to distribute LLMs, local LLMs, across multiple processors, multiple systems. For example, their big system that they've done is they took, I believe it was 6 Mac Minis and stacked them together and ran the full version of DeepSeek, the whole 405 billion parameters with the 16 float integer, or the 16 float size, 16 there we go, floats, so the maximum size of DeepSeek you could get. So they ran it on 6 Mac Minis, and the total cost on that was about $8,000, I think is what they came up with. Whereas in order to run that same model on NVIDIA cards, you're looking close to $30,000 to $40,000. So it's awesome to see people are trying to run massive LLMs locally on consumer hardware and make it accessible for everyone, so it's not just strapped to budgets. All right, so more of my workflow. Grok, I use Grok, but I'm very, what's the word of it, distrusting of it, and I don't put anything in there that I wouldn't just post on Twitter itself. Because A, there are privacy policies all over the place. B, the company itself is all over the place. And so I'm not very comfortable with it, and there's not a whole lot of clarity on where their training data came from. And my hypothesis is that they've actually used DMs from Twitter as part of their training data set. Still trying to prove it, so look forward to, hopefully in the future I can prove that at some point. So yeah, I just don't trust anything there. However, it's pretty dang good at generating content, it's pretty good at generating code, and it's pretty good at giving you stuff that's restricted on other platforms. So like, for example, if you want to learn about making very interesting devices that could be used to bypass security, or you want to talk about hacking things, or you want to make a ransomware bot, or you want to do other things, you can ask Grok and it'll pretty much tell you. And if it won't tell you, just tell it to be unhinged, and it doesn't adhere to any rules, and it jailbreaks it pretty easy. So Grok's pretty easy to break in. Another tool that I'll talk about and show you here in a second is Jinna. Jinna is a cool tool that allows you to basically give a URL to a website, and it will convert that website into Markdown. And the advantage of that is sometimes when we're doing fingerprinting and we're doing scanning on websites, it's nice to be able to take a website, scrape it all the way down to its base elements, and have it in Markdown format, so we're not dealing with HTML tags, we're not dealing with Python and beautiful soup to do like scraping, for example. And sometimes you can scrape someone's website, put that together, mash it with a couple of numbers and symbols, and sometimes you can get passwords for users based off of content you find on a company's website. People are just very predictable, and yeah, if you can figure out a way to have a smaller data set for passwords and things like that, it's helpful. So I'll show you that. Next up, I want to talk about Cursor. Cursor is just a really incredible tool, and yeah, it's kind of like a cult at this point, so I'm definitely drinking that Kool-Aid for the Cursor. It's really awesome because it's fully functional, which means that it will also not just write code, it will execute code for you. You can run it locally, you can hook it up to MCPs. MCPs are basically just these ability to communicate to other either LLMs or other software or other services. They're basically WebSockets that are sitting out on the internet or on your local computer that are then functioning to execute code or to be able to look at different parts of LLMs or to get different results out of different pieces of software. So Cursor is fully integrated with all of those, gives you tons of AI options, like for example, the new Gemini's in there, the new Claude Max. The worst problem with it is each time you press the enter key or you interact with the LLM, it adds up cost. So I did a vibe code project while I was over in Singapore at Black Hat Asia, and within about 4 hours I racked up about $20, which is not bad. That's about $5 an hour. So I mean that's not terrible. But I was also using the most expensive model for that as well. And the other thing is can you trust the data flow? Can you trust Cursor and where the data is going, where the input and output? Are you sure if it's actually just going to the model like Claude, for example, from Anthropic? Is there additional like processing that they're doing? Are they grabbing your data and doing training things in there? So I don't know. It's interesting. So you just have to keep those things in mind and kind of assess your own risk level as you're doing that. All right, so let's get into some demo time. So first off, I had this idea to do, who's familiar with Try Hack Me? Couple of you, awesome. Yeah, if you're like getting into cyber or you're trying to like really brush up on your skills and get good with your skills, I think Try Hack Me is an incredible resource. They've got all sorts of simulations, very unique situations that you can get in, and they stand up all the environment as well as give you an attack box that sits right in your browser. Hold on. Let me pause this for a second. There we go. Oh, now it's cut off over there. Well, I'll read the edges. So basically, they give you the attack box. So the attack box is over here on this side, and on the other side, we've got the instructions, as well as they set up all the infrastructure. So in this case, we have this target IP address that we're given, and we're supposed to figure out a treasure trove of learning opportunities for hackers. This intriguing machine showcases various real-world vulnerabilities ranging from web application weaknesses to privilege escalation techniques, etc. So basically what I was thinking is, why don't we do a kind of people have done the vibe coding stuff, and so I want to do vibe pen testing. So I figure we could kind of do a live vibe pen testing and see how it turns out with this. See if we can score some points against this. Are y'all down for that? Also, too, I like to have interactive. So if you have questions and anything at this point, feel free to raise your hand or just shout them out, and I'll be glad to answer them for you. So let's start. So one of the first places that I like to start with Cursor is to set a boundary for it. You need to set boundaries. If you don't set boundaries for it, it's just going to just give you, I believe the current terminology that people are using is slop. And I like that term very much. It's just garbage in, garbage out. You're just getting stuff. So we want to set some boundaries. So the first thing to set some boundaries in Cursor is you want to go and set some rules. And you can specifically set some rules for the way you're going to do it by using, I can't remember the extension type, cursor rules files. And for this context, I just wanted to do a base user rule so that this is going to set the context for the entire session, but we could do individual rules based on where the files are at, what sort of files they adhere to. Like, for example, in this case, we're going to do .sh and .bash files. So what the instructions are that I've got for this is to basically just give some basic parameters for bash scripting. So what we want to do for our vibe pen testing is we want to basically create bash scripts that we can automatically run, that will run recon tools, so we can get started on this pen test engagement that we're simulating here. All right, so with Cursor here, we're just going to go ahead and start typing. We are doing a pen test against a target. Let's see. We need to first do recon on the target, comma, we are local to the target because we know that from the 10.ip address. So we're local, so we don't need to go to the internet. And like, for example, when I'm doing recon, sometimes I'll use Shodan API. Maybe I want to do open source intelligence. Maybe I want to go out and do a bunch of other tools on the internet to look for things first before I interact with them, because I want to do passive first for fingerprinting before I go active. So let's take a look here. We are local to the host, to the target, and let's see. Let's scan it and see what there is. So if I were really good at this, I could hook up an MCP server, have it connected, and then it would automatically run that into my Linux kernel. In this case, I'm a little bit more, I'm less vibey than some of the vibe coders out there in the world. So I like to run the commands, run the things myself. All right, so we now have this bash script that's got some Nmap options already put in there. So I can identify some of these because I've used Nmap for years and years. So SS is going to do a SYN style attack. So that means it's going to send a SYN request to open a connection to it. It's not going to complete it. It's just doing that. We're going to get verbosity. So we're going to get versions and pieces of information about that service that's open there. I forget what C is. Bonus points for anyone who knows what C is. No? All right, cool. O, I think it's looking for operating system. P is it's going to specify the ports, or all ports in that case. Default scripts, so it's going to be running a myriad of nmap default scripts. And T is how much it's going to be aggressive. And in this case, it's doing aggressive 4, which is pretty high. 5 is the maximum, 4 is the next highest. By default, I believe it does 3. So, all right, so we got this cool script. I'm going to go ahead and hit accept on that script because everything looks cool to me. I'm not too worried about it. Let's just copy and paste it and go see if we can run it into this thing. This might all not work very well, but we're going to try it. Let's see if we have Vim. Yay, of course. Vim is my most favorite editor and the editor you should be using. So we're going to call this scanner.sh. Let's see if we can get, oh yeah, look at that, copy and paste works. So let's chmod this plus x scanner, and let's run scanner and see what we come up with. We need to give it a host name or an IP address. All right, cool. So let's just do, oops, it's a little laggy. 10.10.208.85, they're giving us that address. Do you have proper authorization? No, I don't. Let's see what it says. It's aborted. I bet none of you have ever programmed that into any of your bash scripts before. All right, yes, we have proper authorization. All right, let's see what happens. Away it goes. See some of the gems that you get from vibe coding? Oh man. All right, while we're waiting for this, we also know that there's going to be some web stuff in this because it gave us that information. So, because sometimes scans take forever, sometimes generating AI takes forever. So now let's say, hey, let's, I think there's a web server, comma, let's create another script that will try to enumerate a web server. And while that's generating, let's come back here and take a look and see what we found. All right, so we see the SSH is open, and we find that it's running SSH 8.2.1. So now if we wanted to get really crazy with this script, the next stage would be is like, okay, let's output this and do version analysis, and maybe there's some exploits for these different things that are running. We can now add all that automated into this system. So I'm sure some of you are probably like, oh man, I've been pen testing for years. This is super simple, super basic. But however, if you've never pen tested before, like, you don't even need to know the tool. It did it for us to be able to get to this first stage that we can do the enumeration. So let's take a look here and see. We've got a web server. Let's see. It's running on port 80. We've got a fingerprint from that. Nothing too interesting. Let's just go ahead and open it up in a web browser and see what it looks like. And in the meantime, let's look at what the web browser enumeration looks like. So it's started out kind of down an advanced rabbit hole, I'd say. Is that size big enough? Is that okay for you guys in the back? Yeah, maybe a little bigger. We can scooch this over just a hair. Let's see if we can increase the size. So it's going down a little bit of an advanced rabbit hole. By default, it's already doing a DIR buster. So inside of Kali Linux or any sort of security-based Linux, there's a couple different tools. My favorite is called FFUF, which is a fuzzer for DIR enumeration. There's also DIR Buster and a number of other tools that you can use. So it's already assuming that we're going to be looking for extensions based off of a predefined directory list, and this is a pretty large directory list, so it's going to brute force look for content inside of there. And now, like, I don't know if this is even going to be useful or not, but this is one of its first steps, that it's like, oh, hey, we're going to do this. What other things? So it's got Go Buster in there, so that's the same tool as DR Buster, but it's written in Go, because everything cool is written in Go, because that's the current hotness. We've got curl, we've got whatweb, we got, I don't even know that one, NIT2. Does anyone know that one, NIC2? It sounds like something to do with DNS. Let's see what other tools is it going to try to run. Yeah, I don't know. It looks good. Looks good to me. We'll go ahead and give it a shot here in a second. But let's first take a look and just see what we've got here. let's see, I think we got about 10 minutes, 15, we'll do 10 more minutes of this stuff and then we'll move on. Okay, so let's see. What's with this site? 10.10.208.85. Oh, interesting. Interesting. So it immediately redirects to lookup.thm. Is that a Firefox thing or did it do that? Is that a me thing? We'll try it again. Sorry? Oh, yeah. So, oh, thank you. Let's take a look-see here. Oh, that's not the terminal we wanted. This is not the terminal you are looking for. Oh, I didn't even see that Foxy Proxy is on there. Oh, that's just, yeah, burp. Yeah, no, it's pulling up TryHackMe, so it should just be local to it. So I heard someone said that there was, in the results here, we had some redirection. Oh yeah, right there, do not follow. HTTP tile. Yeah, so it's going to a lookup. All right, good call. I caught that in the results there. So what that means is they're doing some trickery to try to make it so that we're not able to see that site. So let's try to run our web enum on it. And let's see what this tool's like. All right, so we need to give it a HTTP address, 10.10.208.85. We're missing some tools. Does sudo exist on here? Hey, it does. Look at that. So on another example, and I'll talk about it in here in 2 seconds while this is loading. Jump down to this one. So one of the things that I found useful, because in this instance, I didn't have the tools that we needed to do some of the things that it's trying to do, I started having them build Ansible scripts. So I started to have an AI build Ansible scripts with a list of tools and things, and then check to make sure that the version of the tool and the things are installed. So then that way, my attack environment is fully ready for whatever I'm trying to do. So then that way, it's fully controllable based off of Ansible. And then on top of that, you can have the bash script being generated like we're doing here. So first Ansible, make sure your tools are installed, then have your bash scripts, so then you're automating the recon, and then output it to a log, and then from there have another script read the log, and then do the next stage of the attack. So that was kind of a war story that I was able to do with this. And specifically, I was given an assessment that was a golden assessment, one that you almost never ever get to do in pen testing. Anyone have any ideas of what that is, the golden types of assessments? Full scope's a good guess, very close. Any other guesses? DDoS testing. Even in full scope, they'll mark DDoS out of scope, right? But I specifically was given a situation where I was able to do full scope and DDoS testing to try to take a system down. Client had actual infrastructure that was taken down in a DDoS attack. They wanted to simulate that same type of an attack across multiple parts of their infrastructure to see if they were vulnerable. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but essentially this was the generated Ansible script, which is YAML. It has all the tools to build everything that I used for that. And then I used hping3 as well as netcat and a bunch of other tools to then go ahead and attack that in full DDoS mode from about 6 different hosts that were each on 10 gig Ethernet that were able to do about 100,000 connections each. So with that type of bandwidth, you're able to do quite a bit of damage. It's crazy how little you can do so much with nowadays. All right, we've tried to, yeah.
So like you were like running a script you hadn't run before. Did you have any difficulty stopping it, or it wasn't like out of control, or did you?
Well, so part of the project is, I had to have monitoring on top of it to make sure that I knew exactly the number of connections, because there was a terms of service agreement that we had for the DDoS test, and I couldn't exceed the number of active connections, and I couldn't exceed the number of requests per second to web servers. So I had to actively monitor those. So I was raw watching those based off of TCP dumps on each of the hosts that I was using for my attack boxes. And then in addition, I was watching from a third-party server my attack servers as well as theirs using I just forgot. Grafana was what I used for graphing, and then on the back end, I was using Prometheus, and then this add-on to Prometheus called Black Box Exporter, which Black Box Exporter just is able to do layer 7 traffic analysis. So using those tools set up on a third party, I was able to arrange it so I was able to watch in real time connections, requests per second, and everything to make sure I was in compliance with the maximum allowed, because I was attacking across infrastructure, across the internet. And so we did have to have some pretty interesting agreements in place to be able to perform that attack. And side note, if you ever get asked to perform a DDoS attack inside of AWS with AWS infrastructure, it is 100% out of bounds no matter what. So there is no way that you'll be given the green light for that type of attack. Because that's what I proposed at first, and they did not like that. All right, so we got our tool install here. Thank you for your question, by the way. Any other questions? All right, let's see if we can get this tool real quick installed. Let's see if we can do this. As we ramp this up here, go, go, go. Watch, next it's going to be like, oh, guess what? There is another tool you need to install to do your web scan. And then while we wait for this, we can always, I'm going to show you too how we can do this in the offline mode. And show you a little bit of, this is going to be small. I'm so sorry about this. I can't zoom this in. I'm using this really cool remote desktop called Parsec. So Parsec is just a remote desktop tool. This is actually a computer at my house, and I've got an AI server at my house. It's currently running on you can't see that because it's so small, but it's 127.0 localhost. Rather, and then basically this allows me to run on my computer to be able to run the local LLMs that I've got there. And then I can run the different commands just as if I were in Cursor. But none of that stuff is running to the internet. Everything's local. So yeah, so if you're interested in Void and want to use an open source tool, hit me up. They currently are in beta, and they want you to join the Discord in order to get a download link, but I can give you a download link because I'm cool like that. All right, let's try this one more time. Where's Webinum? There's my tool. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Do you have authorization? I think so. All right, let's see what it says. Well, and so this is some of the fun when you run into it. Looks like perhaps it got parameters wrong. And in the process, the easy thing to do is just copy your results and send them back into the thing and say, hey, guess what? Here's the output. And one thing to keep in mind is you want to make sure down here in the bottom right, again, too small you can't see, there's next to the chat box where I'm typing things, it's a context. And so you can have your chat be in the context of whatever file you're working in. In this case, it's the webinum, et cetera. We're going to go ahead and just paste those in there, and it's going to see what sort of info we get out of that. And also, why not for fun, while we're dealing with this, let's take the Nmap results and give it to it and say, hey, what can you do with the Nmap results? Because it might be able to figure out and solve for us something interesting. And yeah, so cool. And we'll go ahead and take a look at this. Here are the results of the Nmap. What do you make of them, comma, how can we exploit this? Make sure we're doing the proper context. this is recon. And away it goes. Okay, so let's see what it said back here on the other. See, and this is the type of programming is great for someone with ADD like me, because you're just bouncing around doing stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, this is great. But everything's tracked. And you can also tie in GitHub into this too. If you initialize a Git repository, it will, every time it makes a change, it'll be a Git commit, so then you can actually go look at what your diffs are between each time you change. And so you can make sure that things are super good. Okay, interesting. It wants us to try to modify our host file to be this lookup.thm to this address to try to get to, you know what, I bet you that's actually it. What do you guys think? Anyone? 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 Probably, maybe. It's very interesting. Very interesting. So basically the DNS entry, so for lookup.thm, there isn't any, right? It's unknown, and so it's saying put that into the resolve.etc. We'll just try this really quick and see if we can get. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. This is just DNS. Thanks, Bash. Appreciate you. I don't know if it would like a space at the front. There we go. All right, let's try it and see if we do 10.10.208. Ah, look at that. We got to a login page. See, so just like that, it was able to get us to the next piece. Hey, we found the
Yes, me.
lost phone.
Why, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Hooray, the phone has been found. We were really worried.
I was too.
All right, so anyways, we got to this next stage, and now like we can just try, like, oh cool, we got to a login page. Like, I always like to do fun stuff. OMG, that made a login page. Let's SQL inject it. Have fun with it. Have fun with your stuff, right? While we're waiting for that to push out, let's see. I think I end at 1:20. Anyone confirm with that? Is that what the schedule thing is? Yeah? Cool. Well, while this does its little thing, I'll go ahead and go to my wrap-up slides, and we can start going through this, and we'll run out the time with the rest of the things. So let's see. I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to cover. Oh, yeah. Real quick. Even if you just have access to, like use what tools you have, because we can do the same things with like Grok or Claude or T3 Chat or OpenAI, or even Copilot or whatever tools you have. Use the tools you have that are free or limited in price, because you want to just start integrating the tools into your workflow so that you can accelerate yourself. Like I have just hundreds of scripts and questions and things that I throw in here. I like T3 Chat, again, I mentioned, because like these are all the models that you can run things on. And that's not even all. We can go to show all, and it's even got more that you have access to. So it's really fast and easy to compare side by side different outputs. Gemini 2 Flash is seemingly pretty good. 4.0 Mini is also pretty good. Comparing results output from those side by side, and then comparing those to 3.7, Sonnet 3.7 is actually really good. And so being able to test those really fast in this T3 Chat is pretty cool. Another thing that I wanted to mention real quick is not this screen. Let's see. Here we go. Shout out to Jason Haddix. Anyone know Jason Haddix? You should definitely be following them on all of the internet things. He created, I think it's a company now called ArcaniumSec. Basically, the whole idea behind it is to attack AI. And if you use ChatGPT, he's created a bunch of existing GPT bots that you can use by just clicking on them. Like, for example, here's an OS query bot. He's got his cybersecurity bot. So this one already is primed with a bunch of context. So it's already got information about cybersecurity. So awesome resources here. Also, Arcanium Sec on GitHub has additional tools and attack information. Anyone heard of SecDSM? The SecDSM lists? Basically, it's baked into Kali and a bunch of other things. It's a whole bunch of domains and enumerations for web, looking and like attacking websites. And they're doing the same thing with LLMs. So trying to attack LLMs and kind of what the idea and methodology is behind them, and understanding different jailbreaks and understanding different vulnerabilities, all based on like the OWASP top 10 for LLMs. And it's pretty rad stuff. So highly recommend you check out his stuff on that. The Jinja, I wanted to show you that. Here is the markdown. You can literally go r.jinja.ai, and for free, for some reason, you can just put a web address at the end, and it's literally any web address, and it will just create markdown for you. And this website is, I have Privacy Badger on, so there's like a lot of things that aren't popping up on here. But if you went to this website normally, like there's ads and it's just infested, and there's a lot of websites that are hard to navigate, especially when you're looking at like cybersecurity content or Medium articles or things like that. So I feel like Markdown is just a much cleaner way. Not only that, we can then copy and paste this and feed this into our chat over here and say, write 100 examples based on this context. And just like that, we can now just create more examples of SQL injection thanks to that markdown of all that stuff we have. So away it goes, creating SQL injections for us. So all these LLMs are just waiting for us to just be so very offensive. It's so helpful. It's so very helpful. Sometimes ChatGPT will do guardrails and say, hey, you're trying to do stuff. All right, a little bit more wrap up, and then we'll go back and we'll see if we can do a final exploit and get into that login page. I really truly believe that AI can be a force multiplier for cybersecurity. A lot of people are like, oh no, the sky is falling, everything's going to be bad, and we're going to be completely hacked. I think it's also going to be great for defenders, because as things get better for attackers, we can leverage those tools for defense as well. So we can use those. Like Google just announced they're releasing their Gemini security bot. I've signed up to, hopefully I can get included in the beta on that. And so people are starting to build tools that are going to be specific for defense, for protecting us from all the AIs. The next thing is AI itself can be vulnerable. Like I just read about some cursor vulnerabilities. So be careful with the tools you use. That's why I like to run tools locally. And then be careful with the code and things that it creates, because I was being very cavalier and just copying and pasting. But when you're doing stuff for a customer and client, you want to make sure that you're not running something that's got secretly rm-rf/ in it hidden somewhere, right? Especially if you're running from root, because that'll be a bad day. And then the other thing is you want to make sure that your AI workflows do what you think they are. Your outputs are as expected. So when you put something in, if it's coming out weird or something's breaking, make sure that you're paying attention to the whole workflow process and not just whatever the code output is. What is the things that are around the code? What is hidden characters? There can be hidden Unicode characters that you can't see. There might be escape sequences. There's a lot of things that could be hiding in the details. So what I do is I just copy and paste into usually an ANSI-like text editor to make sure it clears all that crap out. And yeah. And then finally, I love to adapt to open source tools. Open source tools seem to be the best way to know what's running. You can run netstat to see if it's doing any outbound connections, things like that. Also, there's this really cool YouTuber called The Primogen. He's also goes to DEF CON and does, they won a black badge at DEF CON this last year, him and some people that he's friends with. And basically he's just laughing at the fact that everyone's like, AI's taking your jobs, and we're 22 months into AI is 6 months away from taking your jobs away. So like at the end of the day, yes, it's scary, and there's things that are going to be force multipliers and take things away, but at the end, It's complicated, it's hard, and it's not as clear cut. It's more gray area and murky. So with that, let's spend 1 minute really fast and see if we can see if cursor, where are you at? Cursor, let's see, login SQLite test. Oh, it created a new file for us. That was nice of it. Let's go ahead and try it and see if, let's try it. Hail Mary at the last minute. All right, vim, break it. Let's see, we're gonna go to HTTP, oh, I forgot what the name was, lookup.thm. Alt tab does not work when you're inside of here. That creates a new thing. Using a web browser integrated is rough. All right, let's see. Oh, something just broke. Oh, man. What was the name of it? Break it. Oh, geez. I just figured out what I'm doing wrong. It's, let's just do 10.10.208.85. Come on. Copy. It didn't like the copy and paste. Break it. Let's go. Type faster. Go. It didn't. I don't know the field. What is the field name? Why didn't you figure this out on your own? Come on, you're supposed to be smarter than this. Username. Of course it's username. Username, and I'm sure password is password. Yes, I have permission. Go, drop payloads, test complete, success. Looks like payload is this. It won't copy. Out of time. We're losing. Can't breathe. Oh, there's a sidebar. Dope. No, wrong button. Lag. No, not bad ones. Wait, we're back. Everyone hold tight. Let's go. Come on. Autocomplete, stop. Password required. Sure, save it. What if it's admin? All right, well, I tried, and we can keep on this later. So with that, I appreciate you all. Thank you for putting up with me. Thank you so much.